Hey guys, it's Miss Savannah. So this week we are going to be reviewing all things about the ecosystem. So today we're going to be talking about the energy flow within an ecosystem. So we're going to start off with a food chain. A food chain is a diagram showing how energy and nutrients pass from one organism to another in an ecosystem. So when we think about a food chain, it's in a chain or a line. So it's a simple representation of how energy is passed from the sun to the producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, apex predator, and then decomposer. So we're going to look at some simple food chains first. So say we are in Africa. An example of a simple food chain would start with a producer, which is grass. Really, this grass got its energy from the sun, but we're not showing that right now. So we're going to start with a producer, which is grass. The grass, the arrow is pointing this way because the grass is going into the mouth of the buffalo. So this is our primary consumer. This buffalo is eating the grass, eating the producer. The buffalo goes into the mouth of the lion. And in this food chain, the lion is the apex predator. Even though it's the secondary consumer, it's at the top of the food chain, so it's the apex predator. So this is a simple food chain. But we know that it is not that simple. Organisms can have different classifications. Oh, I messed it up again. Hold on. Okay. There we go. So the buffalo can also go into the mouth of the crocodile. The grass can also go into the mouth of the zebra, and the zebra can also go into the mouth of the crocodile. So when we have a more complex food chain, arrows point to the organism who is doing the eating and receiving the energy. So something's going into that other one's mouth. So producers are plants that make their own food. They do not rely on other organisms to get food. What is the process of a plant making its own food called? What do you think that is called? It is called photosynthesis. So basically, these plants get this energy from the sun and convert it into nutrients. Also added a giraffe to the mix. Consumers are organisms that rely on other organisms to get their energy from. They cannot create their own energy or get the energy from the sun. They have to go get it elsewhere from other organisms. We also have things called herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. So herbivores are animals that eat only plants. So that includes leaves, grass, flowers, seeds, roots, fruits, bark, pollen, and much more. Some herbivores are deer, horses, rabbits, cows, bees, sheep, and grasshoppers. Food webs let us trace the paths of matter and energy through a particular ecosystem. So you can see we started with a food chain, but when we start adding other things to the food chain and have overlapping food chains, that's when we have a food web. Food webs are a graphic representation that is easier to understand than a chart of the same information. So now we have carnivores. These are animals that eat only meat. This includes insects and all animals. Not all animals. Some carnivores are felines, which are lions, tigers, and all cats. Birds of prey, which are eagles, hawks, and owls. And sharks, frogs, and spiders. We also have omnivores. These are animals that eat plants and meat, or plants and animals. So humans, most bears, raccoons, most primates like apes and monkeys, seagulls, and other birds. Food webs show how many food chains can overlap. So we've got our producer, we've got our primary consumer. The grass goes into the grasshopper's mouth. The grass also goes into the mouse's mouth. And the grass also goes into the bunny's mouth. So these are all our primary consumers. This is our producer, primary consumers. Now we have a lizard as a secondary consumer, a hawk as a secondary consumer, and a snake as a secondary consumer. But then we added this snake and lizard in between, so now this hawk in this food chain is the tertiary consumer. So food webs can be created by identifying which organisms eat and get eaten by others and drawing arrows to correctly depict these relationships. So like we said before, arrows point to the organism who is doing the eating and receiving the energy. Okay, that is all I have for today on food webs and food chains. I also want to talk a little bit about energy pyramids. So energy pyramids show that we have a pyramid and we have different organisms on each level, and our producers are on the bottom, and then our primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. And what an energy pyramid shows is that as you go up, the energy goes down. So that's an important thing to remember. Let me see what else I had. I got it written on my board. Also, I want to talk a little bit about decomposers. So what a decomposer is like a mushroom or worm or bacteria. And what decomposers do is break down dead organisms and return them to the soil. We also have something called a scavenger. A scavenger, instead of hunting for its food and trying to eat something that's alive, it just goes and finds dead things and eats those to get its energy. We also have predator, which is a hunter. They hunt for their food. And prey, which is the thing or animal being hunted. So we got predator, prey, scavenger, and decomposer. So those are also things you need to remember. Yes, and that is about it. So just remember those vocabulary words and study your vocabulary. Study using the Ecosystem Study Guide as well, and you can find all this information there. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.